Hello, I'm Rick Stivers, and I'd like to welcome you to Young Martin's Reels. Today we're going to be working on this vintage Zebco 66. This one belongs to an internet friend of mine, Tommy Modisette, and Tommy's been helping me in the world of Zebco reels, and him and Jim Jones. And so I'd like to thank him. He's loaned me this reel so that I can tear it apart, clean it, and service it, and put it all back together. And I'm going to be sending it back to him. He told me I could keep this one, but I'm going to send it back to him when I'm done. That's just the way I do things. I really don't need any more reels around the house. I've got so many already. So first thing I'm going to do to make sure that there is no deception or anything going on, I have already been into this reel. I did a quick inspection on it, and what I found was that the drag screw and nut here were stripped out on it. The right in here and up inside there, they were stripped, so they didn't work very well. See if I don't know if you can see the threads in the up there and close, but this was stripped out, and in my marvelous pile of replacement parts, I managed to have both parts, and so I've already put those in. I'm not going to take that back apart because you've got a small pin that has to be pressed out, punched out here. You got springs and everything involved. I'm going to show you how they go together, but I'm not going to take it back apart and try to put it back together. It took me a while, and my clumsy hands were in the way a lot, so it really would not have made for a very good video. As a matter of fact, I did try it a little bit, and it didn't come out at all. Nothing but hands. So let's start off by removing the handle. This handle nut's already loose. All right. Now, my first challenge when I got this reel was trying to figure out how in the world to take the case off of it. You look at it, there's no screws. Okay, we have the drag washer or drag nut here, but that's just tells you less and more drag. That's not taking anything off. And I've got this weird looking concoction here, and I wasn't sure quite what in the world that was either. So, in the marvelous world of the internet, I went out and took a look, and sure enough, somebody out there had a video on how to remove the cover off of this reel. And basically what you do is you lift up on this little spring right here. This is spring loaded, by the way. There is a spring up underneath this cap, and it fits in that groove right up in there. So it's got a spring in there. Okay, you lift up on this spring loaded catch, and you pull out on the reel on the cap at the same time, which takes a little bit of dexterity. If you've got a strong enough thumbnail, you may be able to do it that way. Lift it up and pull. Nope. Lift it up and pull. This cap is very tight. There we go. Now on the other side, there's this slot, and that slot hooks on that pin right there. Okay, that rectangular pin. That's what that slot goes into. And so when you snap it back on, make sure that you line that up. There's the cover. All right, we're going to slip this handle back on for just a second. We're just going to slip it on. We're not going to tighten it all the way down. That way we can remove the spool. That's got the spool off. Now, in order to take, the rotor, or now we're in the Zebco world, this is a spinner cap. Jim, did I get it right? All right. Now, this spool slides off, but see this right here? This is your drag right here. And that assembly was bent. It was bent back this way so that no matter how tight they tightened this and crushed the spring, it didn't have any drag. So I've managed to fix that. Now screw the knob in here. As a matter of fact, if you want to see it, let's go ahead and take this other side off. Once one side of this is off, the other side is not so bad. You can usually press it on that side and pop it off, like so. All right, here's our spring assembly. Let's turn it around this way, where we're in more light. And I'll use my screwdriver as a pointer. Okay, this is the other end of that same plate we were just looking at right here. Okay, turn it. There we go. All right, you've got the plate, you've got the screw, you've got the nut right here, then you've got this screw assembly, which looks like this inside. Okay, it's got this pin. The pin slides through and into here, and it goes right through that plate. Well, the spring is what provides your tension against that drag plate. And when you loosen it or turn it counterclockwise, it unscrews the screw out of the block, but it forces the block down, which tightens the spring. Okay, when I got this, the spring was completely flat and they were actually overlapping each other. So I took that apart, got it undone, got this done. Loosen this all the way, at least until you see the spring come loose. Okay, once the spring's loose, you know you've got no drag left. Spring back out. That means your drag, and look, at that point, your spool just wants to fall off. Now the bottom of the spool has got these insets for the clicker. Here's your clicker right here. Now that clicker serves two purposes. One, it only allows, it makes the noise when the spool drags. And two, it won't allow the spool to back up. Okay? So, spool's off. Get some of that line out of the way. What do we got left? Now we're ready to take this out. Now, this one baffled me for a few minutes because when you pull out on it, the spring comes up, the washer comes up. Let's zoom in again. This is the part I had a little bit of difficulty figuring out. Okay, but if you just keep pulling, hold on to the washer right here. If you just keep pulling, the shaft will slide right out. Just like that. Now you've got the spring and the washer in your hand. Take those out. Zoom back out. Once that's done, your center shaft or pinion gear will come out. And if you'll take your anti-reverse and clicker, move it to the upward position, now you can take your main gear out. And that is as far as you normally need to take this apart. Very seldom will you have to take this assembly apart over here. If you do, what you're going to have to do is see this little pin right here? Let's zoom back in. See that little pin right there? You'll have to press that pin out. And I was able to do it with a screwdriver, just pressing in, and it popped it right through. Once I had done that, that pin spinning around in here had worn a groove down inside here, so that when I put the new pin back in, it caused it, or the old pin back in, it was in a slightly different position, and it caused it to bind because there was a groove cut in this facing. So what I ended up doing was taking it all back apart and taking a file and squaring this back off again, making it perfectly flat again. All right. Everything here now is just ready to be cleaned. This is your anti-reverse over here. You don't take it apart. It's riveted together. So there's nothing there to take apart. We're riveted together here. You don't take that apart. So the only place that you did have anything you could take apart left was right there. On the bottom side of this guy's a whole lot more complicated than most spinner heads. All right. It's got a lot of moving parts. There's also the dome-shaped one or cone-shaped one that comes in the early Zebco 33s, and it's pretty complicated. I think this one beats that. So just look it over, make sure that make sure it matches this one. Basically, you got a spring here that comes over here. You got another spring over here. You've got another spring here, so you got 3 total springs in here, plus this drive rod here that fits down inside there. But this one is clean. It's perfectly clean inside. So what we're going to do is we're just going to oil it. A little bit down in there, a little bit here. Everywhere that it pivots, put just a drop of oil. All right, that's going to be ready to put back on. Now I'm going to take a few minutes to scrub these parts clean. I'm not going to be talking to you or anything during that. I'll just take care of it. Okay, as I learned yesterday on the Berkeley 418, make sure, don't just assume that your anti-reverse gear is good. Go ahead and inspect it and make sure it's good. Don't just do a quick wipe down and pass on. Also, inspect your gear teeth. Make sure that all of them are good, both from the front side and from the edge. And these look really nice. Okay, let's take a look at the pinion gear. These actually get blown up slightly in my camera, so it actually gives me a better inspection point to look at it through there than it does by my naked eye. Okay, those all look good. So what we've got is a Zebco 66 that's ready to go back together. Okay, before we go any further, we're going to go ahead and put some grease in here so that the spring and that tightening screw can be adjusted easily without stripping out. Okay, we're going to take our gear and grease the teeth on the gear. If you want your anti-reverse to run quieter, put a little grease on the clicker cog. Now that grease is acting as a cushion to quiet it down just a little bit. Okay, that should be sufficient. And we're going to put some oil on the shaft and slide that back in. Oh, wait a minute. Let me make sure, because I don't think I did. Let me make sure to go ahead and run a cotton swab through here. Yep, I did not do that. Okay, make sure it's clean in there. Let's be on the safe side and add a couple of drops of oil in there. Slide the gear in. There we go. Now we're ready to put this pinion gear back in. So we will grease the pinion. Oil the shaft and slip that back in all the way down. Now that brings us back to the axle shaft, the spring, and the washer. So we're going to put a little oil on the shaft, set the spring in place. This is going to be a little bit of a balancing act. Set the spring into there. You can take the washer and go ahead and put it on the shaft. Take the shaft, slide it into the spring, get it down below the gear teeth. If this slides up here, it's not going to go on. But you have to have it inside the gear teeth and then slide it down. There we go. That's got that ready. Once you've done that, we're ready to put the spool back on. You've got to get it on past your drag plate over here. See your drag plate right here? You've got to get it past that. So start on that side and then bring it up and slip it on, like so. Once you've done that, go ahead and look, you got to hold that axle shaft. Let's zoom out just a little bit. Hold your axle shaft with your finger so it's pushing in just a little bit. That'll keep it from falling out. There we go. Put your spinner head on, tighten it down. That's only going to go so far before it starts turning your gears. So slip your handle on, tighten it down. There you go. Okay, all of this is ready for a little lubrication. If you would rather use grease here, you certainly can. I'm going to grease that shaft. See how that sticks right there? And that's what you want it to do. But remember, if you hold it down and pull it, it'll come up, except when the spinner head's on. The spinner head holds it in place. Okay? With that done, we're ready to put the case back on. Now remember, you take this slot right here, and you're going to line that slot up with that notch right there. Right there, slip it under. Push down on the front of this, and slip your spool in, slip your back cover on. Okay, when you push that now, your pin should go in right here. Okay, that pin goes in. When that happens, it should stay in until it rotates. Now see, when it rotates, pin pops back out. When you push the button, pin goes back in, rotate it, and the pin pops back out. That's what it's supposed to do. All right, we've got all this excess line that's been slowly unspooling itself, and I can either take the time to wrap it back on, or I can just clip it off. And I'm going to just clip it off, like so. Get that out of the way. Now that that's done, we can take the line, feed it into the front cover. Okay, the easy way for this is to notice that where the 66 is, you should have that facing upward. But find that notch and find that slot, put them in like that. And you see, let's see, make sure you're in there. Slot, notch, line up, and there they are together. All right, then we come down here, and we're ready to put this together down here. So, yep, there we go. We're gonna have to lift up slightly on the plate to get the spring up. Push it in, and it locks in place. Now, let's put our handle back on. And Tommy, I will take this handle back off before I ship it back to you. Keep it from getting damaged in shipment. All right, there we go. Okay, it winds in fine. Now, do we have drag? Oh, we've got our anti-reverse turned off. Turn it on. Okay, but now our drag is super loose because we've got it all the way adjusted out. Now, the drag tightens by turning it counterclockwise. There we go. Nice drag. So we have our drag up and running again. We have our anti-reverse working. Let's hit the button. Button pulls out. There she winds back in. Take the anti-reverse off. Now the handle will go both directions. There we go. Put it back. There we go. And there we have the Zebco 66. I must say, this reel had me just a little bit nervous. Yes, I'm 88 videos into this, but in the past, almost every video that I did, I was working either on a reel that I either had some experience with or belonged to me. This reel did not. It belonged to Tommy. And actually, the reason I did this one first is because Tommy told me when I got done, if I wanted to, I could keep this reel. So if I messed it up, I wasn't nearly as worried. The next two that I've got to do, it's a Zebco 800 that he sent me, and a Zebco 11, vintage 11, not one of the new ones, but one of the vintage ones. And that is a completely new animal that I'm not familiar with. So I'm taking my time. I'm going to make sure that I've got everything right before I get into it. And Tommy Modisette, I appreciate you the loan of this reel. I've got it cleaned up and ready to go back to you. You let me know if you want. I'll pop this off and repaint this center, and so that it kind of matches all the rest of it. If you want me to do that, I'll be happy to do it. Otherwise, we'll leave it like it is. It is a nice little reel, ready to go fishing, except for this old line that it's got. And so for now, that's Rick Stivers with Young Martin's Reels. And if you like this video, please hit the like button. If you didn't like it, hey, hit the dislike button. Come back and tell me why. Look, folks, I really appreciate the comments. Just in the last few days, Ed has been tapping me. Even while I was filming this, Ed sent me another one. I really appreciate the comments. Ed, shout out to you, buddy. I'll be answering your latest comment. And if you'd like to see more videos like this and you aren't already subscribed, please subscribe. And for now, this is Rick Stivers of Young Martin Reels signing out.